but nobody cares. The only way they'll relate to it, I've tried to tell you years ago that America is becoming Entertainment Tonight, okay? And now you look at CNN, and they're doing their own ET, and everybody. The news has become Entertainment Tonight. That's the mentality of the public. Look at the presidential thing, my God. We're going into the Iowa caucus. Nobody cares. Nobody ever heard of most of these people, and they couldn't care less.
Well, I think you make
I'll agree
a good point.
that, yeah.
I agree with you. Absolutely.
It's not going to change, believe me. I mean, we got the election coming, and the people will grudgingly go through it, and a minimal number of them will come out and vote. Nobody cares, and I can't change that. Maybe I think that's wrong, but I got to survive. And just like Donahue said a few weeks ago, he said, we can get into the real heavy issues, but we got to keep, we have to stay on the air. We have to have an audience, and that's not what they want most of the time.
They want transvestite midgets.
Exactly. That's what they want, and that's what sells, and you got to give the public what they want.
Absolutely. But you see, when I'm trying to, it's not a case of redefining it, Neil. One of the bottom lines, and one of the things that I think is important, we look back at the roots, and I remember when I started at WKAT, they had a highfalutin term for people who sat behind a mic and talked to you. They called them talk masters, okay? And I think the bottom line is that there's a difference between a talk show host, a person that's going to open the phones and have the proctologist, have the veterinarian, have the dentist, and have the dietitian on.
That.
Okay, now listen to that. And a person who is an entertainer. Why can't you perceive yourself as an entertainer?
Wait a minute. I am an entertainer, but a good talk show host, even if he's doing heavy issues, should be a good entertainer, too.
Absolutely. You're right.
Okay?
Okay.
But the bottom line is when you play virtually no music, which I do, when you're talking for 4 hours, you're taking phone calls for 4 hours, that's a talk show. It doesn't make any difference whether you're talking about Sergio and his suits or whether you're talking about the lottery or about presidential politics or you're talking about, who looked good at the ice cream store the other night. It's still a talk show.
Who did look good at the ice cream store the other night?
I don't know. I wasn't invited there.
Just about everybody. It was frightening.
By the way, I did ask to do an inspection there for you, so it was clean.
It was clean, all right, believe me.
Neil, have you done your job description yet?
Well, it's interesting. It's one of the fringe benefits of not being an employee. You see, I'm an independent contractor, so I don't have to mess with that kind of
thing. All right.
Because he was all ready to put your job description in his column.
I heard Tom begging to hear me do my job description, and what do you want, 10 words or less?
Yeah.
Yeah. I entertain, I have a good time, and I get paid a lot.
That's the bottom line. Listen, I know this is costing you a lot of bucks.
Are you in your car?
Anything, Mike.
Pardon me?
It's not costing me anything.
Oh, okay.
But if Tom doesn't like the bird, that's his privilege. A lot of people don't like the bird, but I'd like to remind you that he was with me last spring on the AM when I had a 9 share, and he was with me all through the summer when I had a 7.5, and he's with me all so far on the FM, and in December we beat the crap out of everybody. We did over a 5 in December.
You've heard what I said. My problem with the bird is more bird is less you. When I tune in to Neil Rogers' show, I want to hear Neil Rogers.
Well, I got news for you. I've listened to the tapes the last week, and he's so quiet. I think Stan has intimidated him. He's so quiet now that his beak is almost shut, okay?
Tom had a question earlier for me if that there's a heavyweight looking for a...
There's a headhunter in town looking for a GM and a PD for an AM station. Who is it?
Now, wait a minute. You want to run that by again?
All right. One of the heavyweight headhunters in the business has been consigned to find a general manager and a program director for one of the AMs.
In this market?
Yeah.
And you know who it is?
Well, you can narrow it down pretty much.
Well, let's see. Is it on the 79th Street Causeway?
I don't know. Well, I hear he's in trouble, too, but I don't know that they'd use a headhunter to find someone.
Okay. Is it in Carroll City?
It could be.
It's an interesting business, isn't it?
It's either in Carroll City or on right over the Broward line, the way I figure it. Who else? Who else would be looking? You've got 8 or 9 Spanish stations. Howard Premer, I don't think, can afford a headhunter. So what does that leave?
Howard can't afford a head.
Well, WS News is on the verge of being off the air, so I would be willing to bet it's probably over there.
They have a lot of problems with signals, but the thing is that they've had kind of a two-headed management over there. They have a program director / operations manager handling both functions.
Well, good luck to them. If anybody can pick up their signal, what they hear is too exciting. Anyway, by the way, I just want to make one more comment. I don't feel sorry for Al like you do, Tom, because Al has made his own bed. He's become, all through the last 8 or 9 years, however long he's been on the air, he's been a clone. He's been ripping off my act, and he ripped off Jerry when Jerry was down here. That's sure enough time, 8 or 9 years, to develop your own shtick. And Al's problem is that when that kind of shtick ran out, just like Steve with his contrived debates, when that ran out, there was nothing else left. and he is floundering desperately. He's made his own bed, now he's suffering for it, because that act is as dead as a doornail, and it's never going to come back.
Well, I agree with your point. I think I said that, but I also think the problem is what's around him over there. I think if he had like you for a leading...
Let me ask you a question. What's around me, okay? And this is not a knock at, because there are a lot of good people on Zeta, but I'm talking about in terms of numbers. The hour before I come on, there are 3,500 people listening at 5 o'clock. When I come on, we got 21,000, okay? The hour after me, we drop off to a 1-something, all right? So that's a nice cop-out, but if you've got a strong act and you've got a good following and you've been on the air as long as he is, he should be able to pull his own weight, and he's not cutting it.
Well, he's also, in that market, in AM talk, he's also on probably what's the toughest time of the day.
Yep, no doubt about it. Yeah, I wouldn't touch that time period with a 10-foot.
I mean, it's only you.
I think in all fairness, and I don't.
I don't want to start tinkling all over you. Obviously, right now you're going to win no matter where you go.
But I don't think you're a big Stan Major fan. I don't know if you and I have talked about it, but I think one of the people in this market who gets very little credit, who's done a hell of a job, and yeah, he's doing a lot of my act, no question. But he's on in that tough time period, and book after book.
Well, why do you say I'm not a fan? I was one. How many times did we talk about Stan Major coming back to town over the years before he actually did come back to town? I used to be a big Stan Major fan. I just don't hear him much now because I'm working when he's working.
Yeah, but I think somewhere along the line somebody ought to take time and give the guy credit, not just because he's a friend of mine, but because he's doing a hell of a job. He's got great demographics, and he's not surrounded by much anymore either, to be honest with you.
Well, he's surrounded by nothing.
Yep, he's doing it though.
Well, I just want to set the record straight, and I had a prepared statement. The fact that I neither trashed you nor I trashed Stan, it was an open discussion similar to the way we were having it now. And, I heard on a certain mobile phone call that you had to Stan that I apologized to you for doing it. All I did was kind of clear the air and adjusted the record, so to speak. But I'm glad that you're out there monitoring me.
Tom, one thing I always love about Mike is he's so defensive, you know?
Yeah, well, it's that it's Jewish guilt.
That Jewish guilt and that Met sensitivity. Neil, thanks a lot for calling in.
Okay, see you guys
later. Good talking to you, Neil. You going out to the track?
Huh?
You going out to the track?
That's my religion, Tom.
Oh, well, I'll be there.
See you about the third race.
Okay. Bye-bye.
All right, take care. Neil Rogers out on the Mike Spindell. Boy, that's great. That's the first time that's happened in almost 2 years. Since we did our Talk Mania, and I thank him for calling in, and at least
maybe Al will call in now.
Well, we'll probably hear from Tana.
With the rest of the story.
And we'll hear from Sonny Fox. No, Al doesn't listen to AM Talk Radio during the week, during the weekend.
Well, he's out with Yvette on the weekend.
He's out with Yvette, yeah. He's dining and dancing. Actually, he's looking for a house in Fort Lauderdale.
Is he?
Yeah.
Did Neil move to Fort Lauderdale? Every time Neil moves, Al moves.
Okay, Al Rantel together either. 624-9400 in Dade. Broward 524-9400. We will talk about the radio business. We still have FM to talk about, but let's take a commercial break and be back with Tom Jick on the Mike Spindell Show. That when the Herald went on the influential people in the South Florida area, especially in the this area, Miami and Hollywood, he should have been included.
They did use a Spanish language talk host, didn't they? Or was that Howard Kleinberg wrote a real good column in our paper, coming up with his most influential people. And really, in day-to-day life, they certainly were a lot more influential. And that might have been where there was a Cuban talk host, one of the people, because they're amazing, those people, the way they can rally support. Anything they can produce a crowd in 45 minutes.
$300,000 in one day for a young lady's open heart.
Yeah, but Neil, it's the same way. Neil used to be able to mobilize this community for almost anything. He could pick his topic. He certainly, more people are aware of what he's doing and what he's up to than probably 8 or 10 of the 12 people on that list.
Well, like Ira was saying off the air, that no matter where he goes, cloakrooms or ante rooms or bathrooms or wherever, people are all mentioning something that went on. And that cute little bit that he plays about I am not a Nazi from Rick Shaw.
Yeah.
Rick makes the commentary in there that you spend millions and millions of dollars to get people to talk about, say, did you listen to what such and such said today? And that's exactly the thing.
Well,
look at elevator talk.
Look at all the facets of what that's probably a bad way to put it. It sounds self-congratulatory. But all the things I do, the different facets of my job, and yet the one thing, no matter when I'm introduced to people, last night I went to a party, first thing when I found out you know Neil Rogers, don't you? That's all. That's the first thing that comes up. Not television, not local television, network television. First thing is, what's Neil really like, or do you really know Neil? Or I heard Neil say this, or... he really is. He is the 800-pound gorilla in this community.
Yeah, you kind of wonder whether a letter to the editor asking the Miami Herald...
That's the last thing I'm going to say because it's going to be misinterpreted anyway.
Well, that's true. We're not going to, we'll be misquoted. But at least, he's out there monitoring everything that we have to say. The idea of people moving to the FM the way that he was able to take an audience from the FM to the AM, then from the AM back to the FM.
And time period to time period. He went into the toughest time period in the market. I mean, you've got some real major talents in that time period. And he went in and just took over. Yeah.
I think that, first of all, I think that has given a shot in the arm to what people have said has been a really very, very repetitive or very copycat type of an FM market, and that has been our FM market. It's given a shot in the arm to it. You mentioned Magic. You mentioned Magic, a giant, very, very successful. Well, when you were on the Sandy Payton show a couple of weeks back, you mentioned the fact that we are in that demographic group that will constantly always be the group that people
we'll
are
always
going to key to.
Yeah, because we're the largest group ever. We're the baby boomers. Yeah, we'll always, given the birth rate now in this country, we'll always be the largest single group.
But you see that they were very sensitive to, Magic was sensitive a couple of months back to what was being said, that they were playing obscure oldies, or they were not playing the right oldies.
Station sounds great
classic.
now, yeah.
Yeah,
absolutely. It really does. Jerry Sullivan's done a nice job there. There's another case of justice being served. I mean, the way he was treated over on 79th Street was just, it went beyond reprehensible.
Let's go to a mobile caller on 3. Hi, you're on the air.
Morning.
Hi.
Just calling to tell you why I listen to some of the things I listen to, if you're interested.
Sure.
Might back up some of the things you said. Basically, I listen to Neil Rogers in the morning. I'm 40 years old. I have my own business. I spend a lot of time in the car. But basically, I listen to him because he makes me laugh. It's a nice entertainment show. I don't agree with him that people don't care anymore about the issues. I think people care, but they're just fed up with trying to get anything done about the issues. And it backs up pretty much what you say about
Well, the other thing is, there's like 2 or 3 issues that people really care about, and generally it's things that are closer to their life. I disagree on the Sergio Pereira thing. I think people do care, and they are outraged at the double standard that's applied to him. I don't think that anybody else that would belong to any other ethnic group would be handled the way that this has been handled. I think if it was an Anglo, I think if it was a black person, they would be fired. And I think Sergio Pereira probably should have been fired. But these commissioners are looking at an increasingly large Cuban electorate. They're standing for election this year, 2 or 3 of them. They just don't have the guts to do the job.
I kind of wonder if Howard Gary's problems that caused his being firing in Miami were similar to, or probably not as bad as
Not nearly. I mean, how can you compare them?
You can't.
And but I do agree that the other issues, I don't think America gives a whit about Contra-Aid. I don't think they care about Irangate. Any of these topics, they're good for one show, and that show was done a year and a half ago. And you're just not going to keep an audience with people on those topics.
Let me ask you a question, sir. When Neil goes off at 10 o'clock, what do you listen to?
I'm usually out of my car by then, and I'm in my office, so it's...
So you don't have a radio that you listen to at the office?
Probably LYF, elevator music.
Well, I guess, that's kind of 1 and 2. Whenever you do discussions of radio, people, it's there. It's kind of like something that you can't fight. It's the dentist music. It's elevator music.
It's hard to get any work done in my office if I'm listening to something else. That's the reason why.
Well, that's the thing. True. That's why I always wondered about, you can't quarrel with the number that it gets, but if I were advertising, and I don't mean this to be bashing the station, I'm just talking about, because this type of music is generally well received in every market in the country, but how effective is it when it really is like wallpaper? It's just there. I mean, how much is your